Friends, it is finally chilly weather here. It is cold. I could not get warm all day yesterday. I was freezing. I did not have on thick enough shirt and pants because the weather has been fluctuating and we've had it in the high 60s and actually the high 70s last week. And then it goes down at night to like the 40s. But yesterday was very windy and it wasn't even 50. So I froze all day and I was like, oh, I really would like some comforting, nourishing food. And I didn't have the energy to do it. And I had a lot of calls yesterday, so I didn't really have time. So today I was like, today is a chili day. So I made a big pot of chili. I used beef bacon because my friend who I get beef from, they make beef bacon from it. And so this is beef bacon, ground beef, fresh tomatoes from the garden, which we had to harvest before the frost. So we have lots of green tomatoes. So if you have any recipes, good recipes for green tomatoes that does not involve frying, I'd be interested. I did make salsa verde with green tomatoes a few years ago, but we have a lot of salsa verde left, so I don't want to make more of that because I'm running low on shelf space. But what I did to make this actually even more nourishing, the chili, is I had some butternut squash that I had canned because that was actually the only squash that we got this year was butternut squash that the squash borers did not kill. These are the smaller ones I just harvested before the frost, but I have a whole bag of them actually. I'm trying to remember. So these are our bag of green tomatoes, which I have to slowly go through every day to make sure that I don't miss any. Because one of those tomatoes goes bad, they'll all go bad. But this is our butternut squash, and we actually even shared with family. So we still have quite a few. So I was like, whoa, I could make it even more nourishing, add even more vegetables in, and I'm going to add some butternut squash. So it's not a very deep red, my chili, because it has the butternut squash in it. But it will be extra filling, extra nourishing. So I'm going to leave this on the stove to cook down. But I just wanted to sign on and check in and see how everybody is doing. The month of November has been very contentious here in the States. I've been feeling very heavy, dense, chaotic energy since the end of July. We've had a lot of health issues in our family, not personally, but with our parents. And so it's been really stressful. And so a lot of the things that I would normally be doing with cooking and getting in the garden have not actually happened because I haven't found the time to do it. But rather than shame myself and get all expectations and shit all over myself, I'm sitting with what I can actually do. And the same thing with the situation with my husband's family. That is extremely stressful. And there's a lot of unknowns and there's a lot of uncertainty and things are not moving as quickly as we would like. And I have to remind myself that I don't have control over most of this, that I only have control over the way that I respond or react to what's happening. And so it has been a practice of compassion witness for myself as well as for the people in the situation because I don't actually agree with how it's being handled. I would be handling it differently. And it's hard sometimes when you've already been through a situation and you watch other people go through it and they ask you for advice and then they don't follow that advice. And I sometimes, have this as well in my working relationships with clients is I've been there. I've actually probably been worse than most of the people I work with. And I know that there's a big change that needs to be made. But in our society, we're conditioned to be so fearful of change, to always look outside of ourselves for the answers, to not look within. So I've been taking this time to resource myself more, to take care of the parts of me that are feeling really activated by this experience, that are feeling really triggered by how it's being handled, and allowing that to all be here, to all exist, right? All the facets of what it is, without surrendering myself to a process that doesn't feel in alignment for me, right? So I can surrender to something knowing that it's in alignment, it resonates, right? Like I'm going to surrender to this process because it's too much for me. But when we're in experiences where we feel like we know better, which I feel like I know better in this circumstance, it's really hard to not inflict what we think we know onto somebody else and affect their experience and influence what they should do, right? Because at the end of the day, we have to remember that everyone is quote unquote sovereign and can choose what is best for them, even if we don't agree with that choice. So this has been a practice for me of stepping back, of honoring the boundaries that I made to keep myself safe and supported and resourced so I could continue to do what I need to do for my own health, my own well-being, and to not lead from this place of I know better, which is really hard for me because that's my personality of like, I've done all the research, I know all the things, why aren't you listening to me? And then I just don't want to have anything to do with anybody if they don't listen to me. And so that's not always a productive way to go about things or to assist other people who don't have the experience, because it can come off as know-it-all, or you're trying to coerce or force somebody to do something. So we always have these opportunities coming up in life because life is not full of butterflies and roses and unicorns all the time, right? We have these experiences that come up because it is a chance to learn something. It is a chance to grow. It is a chance to expand your abilities. And so I feel like I have a lot of these chances because I work with people who are in a tough place in life, right? They're not having or living the life that they desire or the life that they feel they deserve, right? And so it's this concept that we must take responsibility for what is happening, for the choices that we make. Whether or not we like the choices we have to choose from, you still do have a choice, right? You can just give up. You can just throw in the towel and say, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Or you can choose to pick up your sword, your whatever metaphorical, I don't want to say weapon, but like whatever your ability is to use, right? So for me, that's my voice. That's telling a story. That's sharing my story. That's sharing the knowledge that I have with other people so they can be empowered and educated. So we all have these gifts, right, that we were meant to share with other people, but we kind of have missed that. And instead, we try to pressure people to think like we think and to believe what we believe. And that is a dangerous, slippery slope, because what makes a true community is that everybody brings something to the table of value. And it doesn't mean that it's an equal value in your eyes, but it's something that everyone brings to the table of value. And so when we lose that ability to see that everyone has value to bring, it keeps us stuck in this lack mentality, or this mentality of I know better than everybody else. There's nothing that anyone else can tell me that will help me. That person doesn't understand my life or my circumstance, right? So like when we get stuck in this mindset of this story of I'm all by myself, there's nothing else that anyone else can do, they don't understand, you don't get it, you haven't been in my shoes. And that can be true, right? Because we really don't understand what someone is going through until we are in that situation ourselves. And it can still be different because there has been life experiences that you've had currently and in the past that have affected the way that you view your life and view your perspective on things. But it's a reminder to be present with what's coming up. And is it actually allowing you to be open to learning something from the circumstance? Or is it keeping you even more stuck and mirrored in what you believe to be quote unquote true, right, the right thing, what should be done, right? Like all of these hard lines. So my invitation to you today is, if it's cold, make something warm and nourishing like I did. And if you're feeling activated by what's going on in the States or in your community or in your family, what is the one thing that you can do to alter your perspective around the situation so that it's not as activating for you, so that you are not coercing or forcing your opinion on other people? What is the one thing that you can do to maybe try to put yourself in someone else's shoes and to see if you can be open to how they're viewing things, or how they feel about things, right? That perspective of being able to be empathetic and have compassion and be open to somebody else's stance or position on something is how we build community. And community is something that we desperately need. Humans were designed to be in community, to live in community, to not be hyper independent, hyper aware. And so I invite you today to explore how you can implement this in really small ways in your life, right? In small steps, so it's not overwhelming. And share with me in the comments if you want, or send me a message. Until next time, friends, stay warm.